you can see a completely virgin and unmodified life-size Spirit Halloween Proton Pack thrower. We're going to go ahead and disassemble this and get it ready to install the Frankengeek wand light upgrade kit. So you're going to start by removing a whole bunch of screws. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 screws that we're going to remove. That should get us inside the wand, where we can pull everything out that we don't need. We'll have to either cut this label or remove it to open this up, looks like. Go. Make sure you don't lose all your screws. You're going to see a lot of these pieces, all of these knobs are separate. I'm going to set this aside, and now you can see we're inside the wand. So still need to remove this screw here. So you can remove this piece, the trigger box, and you can go ahead and discard that. You will not need this anymore, as a replacement is included in the wand kit. Going to further remove these screws from the handle. Another screw down in here we need to remove as well. Get the handle out. There's that half of the handle. And this part slides out to remove the entire handle. So now we're ready to remove all the old electronics. You can discard these, you won't need any of it either. You need to remove this screw to get the buttons out. Do not lose this screw, as you will need it to install a new part into the wand. But the electronics themselves you don't need. So if you're not trying to save them for anything, don't worry about breaking the wires off when you pull it apart. Separate that hot glue. I'm going to try to get this apart without completely wrecking it in case I want to reuse it later. So there, that's now out. Set that aside or discard it if you don't need it. And you're going to notice some pieces like this. This is the button, fake button on the ear. You can take that out and discard that as well. You will no longer need it. We're going to put some new stuff up there. So we're this far in. You need to remove these two screws which hold in these fake toggle switches here. Pop those screws out. You will not need these screws, so you don't need to save those. You will not need these fake toggle switches, so you can throw those out as well. Okay, so we're getting close. Next thing is to remove this screw here. Which holds this fake button thing. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Won't need to save that part either, so you can discard that. Install proper light there in its place. Next up, we need to remove this hat light and this hat light. There's no great way to do it, I guess. First one I did, I just kind of stabbed it out with a screwdriver. So we'll give that a try. Yep, so it just popped right out. Do the same with this one. I'm forced to get them out of there. It's got some glue on it too. So now you're left with these little bosses where those were held on. So you've pretty much removed everything you need to remove. Now we're going to start drilling and cutting and modifying lots of things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open these holes up for the proper switches to go in. I really wish they hadn't molded it this way. I understand why they did. I wish they hadn't done it. Makes it kind of hard. You're going to need to go in, Dremel file, drill bits, however you want to do it, and remove these bosses here. You need to get them down flush and following the same contour as that plate there. That way when we install the switches, they'll go flat against the inside of the wand. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to do it off camera because it's a little tricky, and we'll see how it looks in a few minutes. And we're back. So you can see, clean those off, remove those bosses. They are kind of hard to get into. I use a drill to try to drill out as much of the material as I can, and then just use a Dremel to clean that up. So that's essentially what you're looking at. So next up, we're going to open up these vents. So I find, again, the best way to do this is to use a small drill. Just get a bit that fits the same size as those vents. It's about 1/8 of an inch, sometimes a little wider. Drill out a whole series of holes and then go in with a small file and clean it up. So I'll show you some in progress video so you can see what that looks like as we work our way through it. All right, so here you can see, just using a drill bit, got those all opened up. And now we're going to go in with a needle file and just kind of clean those out. Maybe even some side snips, try to get those little bits and pieces of plastic there. So we'll take a look back in here in a second. All right, so we've got the vents all opened up, cleaned up, looking really nice and clean. You do want to take the time to make sure you got all the fuzzes from the drilling and filing cleaned off the inside of that especially. So they're pretty easy, especially after you've done a couple of them like I have. You get pretty good at cleaning those out. Just take your time and sneak right up on them. Next, we're going to drill out the holes for the hat lights. So there's one here, there's going to be a clip light here, and another hat light here. So we'll do these ones first, and we'll come back and we'll show you how to measure for this one here. So this one you're just going to drill out with a 1/4 inch drill bit. That one's really easy. These ones you're going to take your little side snips here, and you're going to snip off that little piece like that, and then you're going to drill that out with a 5/16 bit. Same for here. I'm going to clean this out, snip that off, and then we're going to drill that out with a 5/16 bit as well. So we'll do that and be right back. All right, so we've drilled out the holes for the lights. Again, 5/16 here, 1/4 inch here, 5/16 here. One thing I forgot to mention is when you drill out that 1/4 inch hole for the clip light, you're probably going to need to come in with a Dremel or something and clean up this hole around the edge of that, because there is some extra material. Get that ground down as close as you can Doesn't have to be perfect for that one, because that clip light that pushes into that hole will give you some wiggle room. All right, so to drill the last hole for the hat light, you can use the included template that comes with your wand kit for the position of that light. I've gone ahead and removed the knob here. There's just a screw on the back of that to remove that. It gives you a little bit more room to put that in. So you're gonna drill a 5/16 hole there, according to that mark. And then we're ready to move on to the trigger box. All right, so we're ready to start working on the trigger box. And this is the new trigger box that comes with your wand light kit. You can see it's open in the back so that you have access to the switches. There's a hole in the side for the wire to pass through. So the original one, of course, mounted with a screw into this area here. What we're going to do is cut off this screw boss right here with our side snips, and then we're going to drill out a hole through that, approximately the same size as this one, so around 3/8 of an inch, so that your wire can pass through. And then we're going to glue this one into this location. So we do need to clean some glue out of here, some of the original glue, and we can do that. I would recommend when you glue this, you use like a JB Weld or epoxy or E6000 or something like that, something strong. Not sure if I would go with crazy glue, because I think super glue is just might be a little bit brittle in this case, but you can give it a try. Your mileage may vary. When you are ready to glue it in, you're going to want to use this piece here kind of as a location. And what I would do is get that fitted like this, maybe mark this with a pencil so you know where it lines up, and then apply your glue and clamp it to dry. Okay, so got my boss cut off. I've drilled that out to 3/8 of an inch, cleaned up the old glue the best I could get that off, and I went ahead and you can see I've marked that with a pencil so I know the location. Now I'm ready for glue. So I'm going to go ahead and get this glued and clamped up, and then we'll move on to assembling the rest of the wand while the glue is drying. All right, so while my handle is drying and the trigger box is drying, we're going to install some of the first pieces for the kit. So this first piece is a hole and a plug. That is designed to go in where we remove the two buttons. One is a plug to fill the unused hole from one button we're not going to use. The other is a little bit of a reducer so that the red lens cover that will be for the slow blow light will snap in securely. So this is really easy to install. It's already designed to just fit right in. So you just drop it into that slot and use the existing screw to fix it in place. So that's what you'll get. Now you'll notice the slow blow indicator, the marker, is now on the wrong hole. So if you want to keep that correct, you can peel that on-off label off of there and move the slow blow over, or if you're going to paint your kit, which you probably are anyway, you can replace everything. But now that's all ready. So the next thing we're going to do is prepare the vent light lens. So this is another part of the Frankengeek kit. You're just going to glue this into place right here like so. So we're going to apply a couple dabs of glue to those two little wings, and you'll see it fits perfectly in place right there. So we'll get that glued in, and then we'll start installing our hat lights. All right, so we're ready to do some of our hat lights. So this first one, these are the hat light lenses that are included with the kit. And if you did a decent job drilling your holes, these are a nice friction fit. And they just prop right in there and stay. Now you do have the option, and the screen used prop, the hat light in this position was actually installed from the inside. It was pushed up through. So if you wanted to go for a little bit more accurate look, you could drill this hole out to be the size of the lens itself and push it through from the inside. I'm just opting for simplicity in this case to install it this way. Same thing for this hat light here in this position. Just friction fit in. You could add a little bit of glue, I suppose, if you wanted to, or maybe if you're going to do something, I'd recommend maybe a little bit of hot glue there. Maybe you want to wait till you put your lights in anyway. And then in this position, we've got the clear clip light lens that's also included with the kit. These are a snap fit, so you need to just sort of gently press these into place and they click in very nicely. And then last is the slow blow lens. Same thing here. It's a bit of a friction or a clip fit, so press that in, you'll hear a nice little snap, and that's locked securely into place. So you can see these lamps are all ready to go. So next up, we need to cut out the opening for the bar graph. This is probably the most nerve-wracking modification to make to this. So you're going to want to use the template that's included with the kit for marking the locations. I'm going to cut that out and get that ready, and we'll trace that on and cut that opening. All right, so I'm ready to cut out the bar graph opening. So I've gone ahead and removed the label already. This is a foil label, so it is reusable. You're going to need to relocate it after you cut it out. So if you go ahead and peel that off, and then you can cut out the included template for the bar graph here, and I've got some Scotch tape on it, and get it all aligned. So you need to align it to this edge and to the top and get that taped in place like so. And then you're going to trace it if you want to, remove the label and start to drill, Dremel, file your opening to fit the bar graph frame that's included with your wand kit. So take your time with this. Just go really slow, work your way up to the edges, test fitting every so often so that you can get a nice clean fit. You don't want to have an opening that's too big or irregular. It's just going to ruin the effect of this. This bar graph bezel I designed does have a little bit of a lip on it to give you a little bit of wiggle room if you make a small mistake, but it's not going to cover up very much. The original Wamco screen used bar graphs that were used in the original film had no bezel whatsoever. They were just cut, a rough cut opening that poked through. I opted to kind of tweak the design a little bit to give you a little bit more wiggle room to play with. So go ahead and get that cut out and we'll get that fitted up. All right, so we've got our opening cut here and we are ready to install the bar graph. So if you're really careful and you did a really good job with it, you'll see it's just a friction fit. Just goes right in, don't need any glue, and you're ready to go. So that's all ready for board installation. Here we're going to assemble the trigger box. Now that our glue is all nice and set up, we have the printed circuit board with the two switch and a button and a 4-position connector. This short 4-position jumper cable is included in the kit. So to get started with assembly, you need to remove all of the nuts and washers from the screws, from the switches. You'll notice the toggle switch has a nut on the top and bottom. You need to remove the one on the bottom as well. So that one there needs to come off too. Once you've got all that off, go ahead and connect your wire. Just plugs right in. And now you're going to install the circuit board into the trigger box. And you'll notice one hole is bigger than the other in the trigger box, and that is because the diameter of the push button is a little bit bigger than the diameter of the toggle switch. So make sure you've got that in the right orientation. The toggle switch goes toward the top. First thing you're going to do is hook your wire through the hole that's inside here, and then you're going to bring this into position. It's a little pinchy, but you'll see it's not too bad to get it into place. right in. Pull the slack out of your wire. This wire has plenty of length, so don't worry about trying to pull it too tight. Once you've got that in place, you can reinstall on the toggle switch the star washer and one nut. So you're going to end up with a keyed washer, got one there, and one nut left over. You won't use those, so you can go ahead and discard them. You can snug that up. And then you're going to just reinstall, or I like to reinstall just the nut on the push button. You can do it without dropping it. I don't bother with the split washer. Find that it takes up too many threads and doesn't look quite as slick. So I'm just going to do those finger tight. You could use a pair of needle nose pliers or a little adjustable wrench to tighten those up. And that's what the trigger box all assembled looks like. Okay, we're now ready to install the main printed circuit board into the wand. So the idea here is that this just fits in, the bar graph slides into the bar graph bezel, and the toggle switches fit into the holes that we carved out earlier. This could be a little bit tricky sometimes to get the fit quite right, and what you're going to see here is once I get my bar graph aligned, take a look here, see my toggle switches don't line up very well, and that's okay. And the way we're going to solve that is to open these holes up a little bit more. You see they're kind of on a weird angle, and so that little lip there catches. So here you can either take a file, or if you're really careful with a drill or a Dremel, and you want to clean those up to open those holes up and get rid of that extra little bit of slag there. And the way that I like to do a quick sort of fit check on these is to take the star washer from those toggle switches and place it over the hole. And you just don't want to remove any more plastic than what the star can cover. And if you are just careful and kind of take your time with it, you can creep up on that. Your mileage may vary a little bit when you assemble this. A little bit of it depends on how accurate you were when you placed your bar graph and cut that opening out. So you'll have a little bit of maybe finagling to do to make that fit, but I can promise you the end result is worth the fussing. So I'm going to go open these up with a file, clean those up a little bit, get my toggle switches to fit, and we'll be ready to install this permanently. All right, you can see here I've opened these up just a little bit. It doesn't take a whole lot, just a couple seconds with a drill bit just to clean that up a little, and now it should fit right in. So you notice I did remove all of the nuts from these toggle switches here before we go ahead and install this. So now we're just gonna drop it in there, get it into place, get it nice and level. And then you can see here how the switches fit in. So we're gonna drop the star washer on and a nut. Sure your bar graph bezel is seated all the way in, and you can see we're starting to look like something now. So here is the cover plate for the ear on the wand. We need to glue this in place before we install the hat light and the switchboard. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this in, and then we can get the switchboard installed. All right, so I've gone ahead and glued on the little cover plate for the ear. I've also gone ahead and put in the hat light for this one. It's just a friction fit, it's pressed in place. Normally would not expect to need any glue. However, if you find yours is a little bit loose, you could add a little glue to put that in place. So now we're ready to install the trigger circuit board. So I've already gone ahead and taken off the nut. I got rid of the washer. I'm not going to reinstall the the split washer on the push button. I just like the look of it better without. So you're gonna press that in place and then put your nut on it. You may want to leave it a little bit loose until you do your final assembly of the wand. You can see that's in place there. So we're now ready to start running all of the wiring and getting this thing wrapped up. Okay, the first wires we're going to install are the vent light, a 10mm LED, a 5mm LED for the slow blow, and then another one for the first hat light. So these are color coded. You can see the red wires indicating this is a red LED and will be for the slow blow. So we're going to start just by plugging this in here. And then the vent light is just going to drop right into this opening. Should be a friction fit. If you find that it's a little bit loose, you could use a little bit of hot glue or something to hold that LED in place. Then our red LED with a slow blow. You're going to push, and these should snap in to those clip light lenses. They can be a little bit hard to get in there. And then lastly, you're going to do this with the yellow wire for the hat light on top of the wand body. Once again, it should be a friction fit. If you find it's not tight, you can add a little bit of hot glue. That one looks like it's going to stay. So there's your first set of wires. Your second wire is going to be this one here. It's got some LEDs on it and it's a longer wire. This is going to be for the tip of the wand, which is actually the 1-watt LED board for the firing effect. So this is going to plug in over here. And if you wanted to, you could uninstall the board, plug this in. See, it's a little bit harder to reach. So I'm going to do some fumbling. There we go. Now you'll notice these two LEDs, one is a flat top LED and the other is a standard LED. So the flat top is going to go into that clear clip light position right here. Again, this should click into place in the lens. Press that in. There we go. Fix my vent light. See, these are not quite as tight as I'd like them to be. So I'm going to add some glue to those. And then lastly, this is the other hat light that goes on the front. So I'll put that one into place. I don't have the LED board attached to the end of this yet. I'm going to go ahead and route this wire up through here. Just kind of lay it in place. And then I have my next wire, which is a 4-position, red, green, white, black. That is used to connect this ear trigger back here to the main board. That's just going to plug in like so. And then up on this side, these are keyed, so you have to plug them in the right direction, like so. So if you need to glue your LEDs in, you may want to do that as you're going along before you run all the wires in. I'm going to do that a little bit later on. But just to give you an illustration then, you can tuck your wires all nice and neat into place here. And what I'm going to do is put a little bit of Scotch tape on these wires to kind of hold them in place in the handle, so when I reassemble my wand, I'm not pinching wires in there. So we'll just take a little bit of tape here, just pretty similar to what was in the original wiring and the way that was held in place. And I made these wires a little bit long on purpose to give you some room to move things around. So that's probably enough. If you wanted to, you could add a little bit extra tape down here to really keep things in place. I'm not going to do that at this point. And now we're ready to finally reinstall the rear handle. So this has to go in 2 pieces, which can be a little bit of a pain to assemble. So this one goes in like that. I think I'm going to put this one in first. Tube out of the way. I'm just going to be careful not to pinch that wire in there. That's back in place. Now I do need to install also the wire for running and connecting into the pack. So I have found there's a couple ways you could do it. You could tape it in place inside the handle, kind of like we just did for the front of the wand, or you can just try to route it through the handle while it's split open like this, which I have found to be just as easy and effective. So this is probably a good time to go ahead and reinstall the screws in the handle, just to kind of hold everything together. Okay, so we've got our screws reinstalled in the handle here. We did not forget about this one down here. And if you want to see a pro tip on how to get that installed, because it's kind of hard now, it's a little bit buried. One thing you can do is take your screwdriver, take a little magnet like this, stick it on the end, and then whatever your screw is will be magnetized and is way less likely to fall off if you want to get that put into place. So not the right screw, but you get the idea. So just a neat little trick. I've gone ahead now and I've also connected the pack to wand cable, the 6 position here, as well as the other 4 position for the trigger box. So we are ready now to turn our attention to the last part of this. So there is a circuit board for the LED. This is a 1 watt LED. This is extremely bright. This little board is designed to just drop right into the back of the tip where the original LED was. So one thing you do need to pay attention to is the location of these holes on the tip, because the connector needs to not interfere with those holes when you put your wand back together. So you want to make sure that when you drop your board in for the wand connect or for the LED, that it is going to be parallel to those holes and those posts and clear it. Once you drop that in, it may be a friction fit. I have already found 2 different, from 2 different packs. These tips are slightly different. This one actually arrived to me broken in shipping. I have it super glued back together. But you can see here that the length of these is slightly different. I'm guessing this is a later one and they probably made it a little bit longer because they were having so many tips broken, so there's a little bit more meat here. But it does appear that the inside diameter is slightly different. The first one of these I put together, the board fit perfectly in this older version, but it did not fit correctly in this newer one. So I have designed this board to be very snug. Hopefully it slides in, should be a friction fit. If it's not a friction fit, I would just add a little bit of hot glue down in there to hold it in place. Once you've got that in place, you can go ahead, do your wand connection. It's relatively easy. You can just plug those right in. I'm going to leave this disconnected just for clarity here. And then you're going to put this back together. So you're going to put that on there. It's going to be snug in place. And you're ready now to close this whole thing up. But I would recommend before you close it all up, go ahead, plug it into your pack and do a light and play test. Make sure everything's working before you close it up, because you've seen it is kind of a pain to open it up again if you need to. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick light and play test on this, make sure everything's okay, and then we'll come back here and do the final steps to close this up. All right, so our functional test is complete and we're ready to reassemble. So I've dropped in the side knob back into the slot. We've got our little side disc knobs. I'm just going to drop those into place. Make sure all of our wires are clear. I want to add a little more tape. Now is the time to do it. I think I am going to try to keep that clear. It's good enough. Now, before we put the bottom cover back on, we need to make one more modification. This post is designed to push against the back of the switches in the original wand. This post is going to interfere now. You can see I've kind of bent this out of the way a little bit just so you can see a little bit better. Is going to interfere with that. So we need to cut that off. And we're just going to take a pair of side snips and chop that off. Just like that. Now we're ready to reassemble. So make sure that your tube is in place. I find it's sometimes a little easier to start from the top. Make sure that that little circuit board in the tip or in the ear is not interfering. And make sure your wires are in. There we go. So it is a little bit fussy to get that back together. I'm going to stick our green tube back in there. And then we're going to start to reinstall screws. We'll start here. Drop that one in. We'll go up and do a couple here. Just kind of make sure everything's staying together. Right, all of our screws are reinstalled, knobs are all in place. The last thing is to install the rear cap or the rear cover on the trigger box. So this is the final piece. This comes with the kit. This was designed to just snap in place like so. I would recommend, however, that you do add a little bit of an adhesive to this. You could use the hot glue, you could use the E6000, could use a little bit of crazy glue. I would not apply a lot of glue to this in case for some reason you ever needed to get this open again. But I tried to make this very mechanically sound, although I have to say I don't necessarily trust it. So I would recommend you add a little bit of glue to hold that together. I'm going to do it kind of like this. Just apply a couple dots of crazy glue right to the edges of that. I'm going to try to be very light with it. Drop that in, snap it closed, and there is your assembled wand. If you left this a little bit loose, now's the time to do a final tighten up on that. And you're ready to bust. So you will need to still run the wire through the loom on this. It's actually not too bad to fish that through if you hold the loom tight. I actually like to just take it completely straight, put my foot on one end of it, stretch it out straight with the other hand, and then just push this through. You could use a fish tape if you needed to. I find it's not that difficult. And so thanks for watching. This was a long video, I know, but this wand is quite a bit of work, but I think you're gonna really love the results. So keep on busting. Okay, so here's the final product. We've got the light and sound kit installed in the pack and the wand kit installed in the wand. Ready to do a quick demonstration. As you can see, all the switches are off, the pack is off. The slow blow LED is just blinking, letting you know that battery power is applied. So to start up the pack, you're going to flip the top switch. That is going to start the pack. And on the wand, you'll see the bar graph, and clip light starts to blink. The vent light is on, top hat light is on. So this fairly faithfully recreates the rooftop scene of Ghostbusters 1 with the animation. Now if we want to start the wand up itself, flip the bottom switch, you'll see that this light now is on solid, the two hat lights are alternating, and the LED on the ear is now lit. So you're ready to fire at this point, and you can fire using either this button here or this one up here. They both have the same function. Firing will trigger a very high power 1 watt LED. It's quite bright. We've got music mode with the activate switch. While music is playing, you can push either the intensify or the ear button to skip to the next track. You'll also notice during the firing sequence that the bar graph has a different animation. You also have a manual vent mode, and this is regardless of whether or not you're in video game or movie mode. With the wand bottom switch off, pressing the intensify or the ear button will trigger a manual vent, which will vent and then restart the pack. And lastly, with the wand powered down, if I shut down the pack, we've now shut down the wand, the pack is shut down, and we're back into the idle state.